So we talked about basically hosting an online event, and hosting an online event can be broken down into four main aspects. First, being the logistics of hosting, as far as actually setting up the online event, where you're going to host it, how you're going to host it, along with understanding who's going to be there, what content's going to be shared, but really just the overall logistics of, hey, here's the online event, here's what we're doing. And in case you haven't tuned in for the first couple parts, when we're talking about an online event, this can be anything from a webinar to an online summit to maybe a speaker session with some of your SMEs, subject matter experts, or even some customers that come in, or even some prospects. So just having something online where people are getting together. Yes, we don't want to have an online event just to have an online event for no real direct purpose. But the point being that if you are typically used to doing trade shows or in-person events, things of that nature, this could be a strong option to consider throughout 2020 and as we transition into 2021 as well. So there's four main areas. First being the logistics of hosting, next being the pre-event promotion, third being the during event facilitation, what that actually looks like, and of course the post-event follow-up, actually hoping and working towards converting some of those individuals who were in attendance into marketing qualified and sales qualified leads as well. So here's step two. Here's pre-event promotion. We are going to be looking at pre-event promotion part one. So, part one, there's so many aspects as far as what we can do for basically promoting an event, that these are just 7 of the top ones that we have utilized so far. And that you can definitely begin to implement for your own business, for your own events. However, we did have to break this apart into a part one and a part two, just so we're not trying to cover everything at one shot. So the idea being that you spend so much time actually figuring out the logistics of this event, teeing up those speakers. Let's make sure that people actually see it. So there's 7 key elements here that we'll go through, and let's just jump right in. The first being matched and look-alike audiences. Now, I should have actually probably prefaced a few of these with, there's elements here that will be redundant, and there's elements here that you are probably already utilizing in other promotions. However, those other promotions could just be promoting other content you might have, promoting, whatever your unique value proposition might be, or some specific specials or new softwares that you're releasing, anything along those lines. So we did capture them here if you can repurpose them for promoting an online event. So there may be some things here you're already utilizing. We will dive a little bit deeper into each of these. So feel free to, basically maybe you'll get 1 or 2 nuggets of something that you haven't, thought about before, or something you could begin implementing for those ones that you already utilize. But in case you are already doing it, just looking at here's some different ways that you can actually leverage these as far as specifically an email sequence specifically for pre-event promotion. So first being matched and lookalike audiences. And this is based on your email list and current customer database. Chances are you're already utilizing these for LinkedIn ads, or potentially if it's more of a sophisticated program or something that you are utilizing for promoting content or promoting other avenues of just lead gen in general, not just for an online event. You're utilizing these for LinkedIn campaigns, figuring out where those individuals are online, and the overall 30,000 foot view here being what these are is if you have an email list and you have a database of individuals that who have opted in and you are actively trying to market to. They could be sales qualified leads, marketing qualified leads, or even customers, or maybe just abandoned proposals at this point. Presumably, you probably have these segmented to some degree, and you might have first name, last name, email address, company, job title, any of that kind of information. Leveraging this data, you can begin uploading this and utilizing this to attract other individuals who may look similar to them through LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, any of those main ad platforms. How this actually works is you can upload that data, and LinkedIn specific, that's the one that might be more you guys beginning this program in general, is when you upload to LinkedIn, what you're telling LinkedIn is, hey, here is our opt-in list, here are our prospects, here are our customers, anything along those lines. Now LinkedIn, go out and scour your database, so scour all the user accounts, and figure out who those accounts are that are associated with these email addresses. So, for example, if I was a customer and everyone here at Social Assurance, was a customer of yours, and you had our email addresses, maybe we opted in, maybe we downloaded a piece of content, something along those lines. And of course, presuming that you opt in and subscribe, then if you have that info, you can upload that in a CSV file to LinkedIn or Facebook or Google, and say, hey guys, of all of these email addresses, who can we match? And presumably typically 70 to 80%, give or take. It all depends on if you have some catch-all emails or how valid, and different industries that you might be functioning in. But call it roughly 70 to 80% match rate as you upload all of these individuals. Again, for this example, all of us at Social Assurance, you'd be able to have your advertisements show up through LinkedIn to any of these individuals who match the user criteria on that list. So anyone that LinkedIn is able to match for Social Assurance, you can have your advertisements show up to us. So that's how that can look. Lookalike audiences, very simply just take that same data and say, hey, you may not know everyone in your specific, specific target market. They obviously presumably have not all opted in to be able to be known prospects to you. So let's take this data, let's take this customer data and say, hey, here are other individuals who match similar criteria. So similar job titles, similar interests, job experience, company size, anything along those lines. So it's matched as the first part where you upload your data, and lookalike is taking that data and saying, hey, here are other people who look similar to this target market. So with that, typically you can say, oh, well, email promotion is free, and we'll touch on that in just a second, and it is. However, there's the philosophy of omnipresence and continuing to have those multiple exposures. And chances are sometimes people have catch-alls in their email, and maybe they already send your stuff to a folder, or maybe they've just are not engaging with it once one of your emails comes through. I'm sure we've all been there before. We will just take it and delete it right away. So this could be one option, to just have your advertisements, your messaging show up to them time and time again through LinkedIn, Google, Facebook, any of those kinds of ad platforms. Website visitor remarketing is a little bit of a different one. We have done a couple of trainings on this, and the best example we always utilize for actually putting an example with this is really around Amazon. So chances are you have searched for a product, or you've at least been on Amazon and searched for a product in the last couple of days or weeks. And as you continue to navigate around the rest of the internet, you will end up seeing advertisements for that product. It happens. It's just one of those unique things, and that is website visitor remarketing. So we're not proposing that you have as in-depth of a remarketing program as Amazon. That's not the point here. Think of whatever that product is that you searched for as your company. So if they search for a product on Amazon and they happen to visit your website as well, then they would end up being able to see your advertisements on other websites that they visit. So put in a slightly different way here, just to actually role play this, is once they could visit your website, and this is all facilitated via cookies and basically tracking pixels, which we'll probably get into another time. But understanding that once they visit your website, and maybe they go to the New York Times, or maybe they go to a social media site or any other websites, or even on an app, and they're scrolling through anywhere that you see an advertisement, YouTube is a big one, they could be eligible to see your ads. This is all facilitated typically via Google Display Network. A couple of these things can be actually done through Facebook and Google as well. However, Google Display Network through retargeting, through remarketing, is one of those main ones that we have leveraged for our clients, and definitely something that you can look at utilizing for pre-event promotion. Chances are, again, anyone that's been to your website could be a prospect. Maybe they came through another direct sales outreach or another marketing effort. So just trying to boomerang them back to your website is the intent here. You can have these show up on, for visitors of your site, sites from. And one of the targeted display options is to have your ads, if your competitors, or if you function in an industry where your competitors do allow allow ads on their websites. So, one example of that might be a media company. So if one of your competitors does allow ads on their websites, typically lots of editorial sites will do this, then you could also always have specific placements of these ads on those websites. Again, probably next level, something that we have done trainings on before, definitely can talk through at another point, but just at a high level, website visitor remarketing, definitely one of those keys for that pre-event promotion of an online event. So as we move on to email sequences, one of the key things here, and not to sound redundant, is that a key aspect is that all of these tend to build on top of each other. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're not trying to just throw tactics at promotion that you have to try and touch all the bases or do everything for everyone. That's not the intent here. It's to really just the intent really being just to capture all different options of what you can do, and then you figure out what might lend itself well to what your team is already doing, and what just really works well for your industry. So for email sequences, this probably sounds very similar to the matched and lookalike audiences. So for email sequences, this probably sounds very similar to matched and lookalike audiences. You have your database. You have your database of prospects who may just not be customers quite yet, and you also probably have a lot of those more cooler leads, maybe from a trade show or a partner promotion that you've just acquired their email addresses. How we can do this, maybe you've heard of a 3-part drip sequence or a 5-part follow-up sequence, whatever this might be. For actually promoting an event, typically we find between 3 and 5 drip sequence is the best option. Now, this does lead into number 4 here, which is the sneak peek announcements of speakers, where people always ask, okay, so what is this email drip sequence? What content do we have in there? What are we talking about? And yes, there is always that aspect of the first one could be just talking about what the event is, what you're going to be covering there, why, of course, always looking at the value, why someone will want to even watch your event or why they want to attend it. But looking at what are those emails 2 and 3 or 2 through 5, all depending how many drips you have, and that is sometimes those speaker announcements or those sneak peek announcements as far as who's going to be there, what is going to be covered, why they really want to attend. Again, always value in their eyes. So if you think of email 1 being just talking about what the event is, what you're talking about at a high level, maybe a topic, and potentially, basically date and time. So, when it's going to be, the logistics of it. Email 2 and 3 could be about keynotes. It could be about who's going to be actually headlining there. If you're having other partners actually speaking there as well, leveraging any of that name recognition, that credibility for emails 2 and 3. 4 and 5 can be a little bit different. You always want to tread that fine line of not being overly basically overbearing with anyone and just sending out an email for the heck of it. However, if you have templates and you're able to repurpose potentially content from that first initial email as far as talking about what the value is, why they'd want to attend, for emails 4 and 5, maybe there's a new speaker. And if there is, fantastic. That's your content for emails 4 and 5. If there's not, though, having that same template, having maybe value as far as what they will get at the end of it, what the goal is. We've done a couple for clinical trials recently, as far as continuing clinical trials and maintaining trial validity throughout this COVID aspect and this COVID crisis, and switching things over from in-person trials to more of a hybrid trial or strictly remote trial. Again, very specific example. However, what is that value? Why do they want to attend? Packaging in a little bit different way. 3 to 5 drip sequence is the most effective that we've seen. And then always, if you have partners, if you have new speakers, continuing this. You don't want to do all 3 to 5 drips in 1 week, especially that 1 week right before the event. Spread them out a little bit, based on what you're already doing to your database. If you're doing 1 quarterly newsletter, which we probably wouldn't necessarily only advise a quarterly newsletter, but if you're only doing 1 quarterly right now, you're not going to do 5 emails 2 weeks prior to your event. That's going to be overwhelming to the database. It's going to be different. It's not what they're expecting. However, if you're already doing a weekly email, is mixing in there, 1 of these or 2 of these every 2 weeks definitely wouldn't be the end of the world. So that was kind of the sneak peek announcements as well. You have your templates. These cannot just be for emails. They can also be for social posts, yeah, organic along with paid. So organic social posts, anyone who's already liking your page or a follower of your page, especially on LinkedIn, if they're able to engage, like, comment, share your posts, fantastic. It just increases your reach all that much more. But again, these kind of can be repurposed for that email sequence as well. LinkedIn advertising, we touched on this for the matched audiences. However, instead of just matched audiences, you can target based on job titles and specific users who might want to attend your event. Geography, typically when we're doing an online event, is not that the most utilized targeting criteria. However, potentially for a trade show, it would be. When we're looking at an online event for LinkedIn advertising, you're really looking at job titles, as we had said, companies, so potentially for account-based marketing. If you have prospects that you're already looking at trying to target, or specific industries, absolutely looking at all of those different company sizes, figuring out what that is, and leveraging LinkedIn advertising. That can be in a sponsored post, that can be in an in-mail promotion, that can be simply in a text ad. So many different options. If you have video, you can definitely utilize that as well, and that would be part of a sponsored post. But just figure out what that is. You figure out your target audience once, and then you can continue to run multiple advertisements to them. Typically, we've seen in somewhat of a drip sequence. So think of the email where you have different advertisements showing up to them prior to the event. LinkedIn advertising can be very similar, where you have different advertisements, different speaker announcements showing up to them prior to the event.